Mark was no stranger to isolation. After Emily's death, his once vibrant world had faded into a monotonous cycle of work, research, and sleepless nights. His basement laboratory became his sanctuary and his obsession. The Chronos Gate, a machine built on equal parts theoretical physics and desperate hope, was his lifeline to a past he couldn't let go. He had tested its functionality countless times, sending objects milliseconds into the future, rewinding them mere seconds into the past. Each experiment brought him closer to what he desired most, undoing the moment Emily's car skidded on that rainy bridge. Just one more calibration, he murmured to himself as he tightened a bolt on the shimmering frame of the machine. The Chronos Gate was a lattice of wires and conduits, pulsating with a faint blue glow. A single chair sat at its center, surrounded by the rings that would supposedly carry him through time. Mark's hands trembled as he typed the coordinates into the console. June 12th, 5 years ago, 8:03 p.m. The exact time Emily left the house. He took a deep breath and sat in the chair, gripping the armrests as the machine roared to life. A blinding flash engulfed him, and then everything went dark. When Mark opened his eyes, the scent of rain-soaked asphalt filled his nostrils. He was standing on the driveway of his old house, and his heart leapt at the sight of Emily. She was unloading groceries from the car, humming a tune he hadn't heard in years. For a moment, Mark was paralyzed. She was so alive, so tangible. But his resolve returned when he remembered the stakes. He moved to call out to her, but the front door opened, and another Mark, his past self, stepped outside. Mark ducked behind a bush, heart pounding. He had forgotten this detail, forgotten that he'd been home briefly before leaving for work. He watched as his past self greeted Emily, their laughter mingling with the sound of distant thunder. The simplicity of the moment was almost unbearable. "I have to wait," Mark whispered to himself. "Wait until I am gone." As the minutes dragged on, Mark felt an unsettling awareness that he wasn't alone. Glancing over his shoulder, he caught a flicker of movement near the tree line. But when he focused, there was nothing there. Finally, the past Mark left, driving off in his car. Seizing the opportunity, present Mark approached Emily. She looked up, startled but smiling.
Mark, did you forget something?
"Don't go anywhere tonight," he blurted. "Please, just trust me. Stay home." Emily's smile faltered.
What are you talking about? You're acting strange.
Before he could explain, the air around them shimmered, and the world seemed to flicker, like a faulty light bulb. Emily gasped, stepping back.
Mark, what's happening?
Mark turned to see a shadowy figure emerging from the tree line. It was him. Another version of himself, gaunt and hollow-eyed, stumbling toward them. "No," the gaunt Mark rasped. "You can't stop it. You'll only make it worse." Present Mark's heart raced. "Who are you?" "I'm you," the figure said. "And you've already failed." The gaunt Mark's warning came too late. Emily's scream shattered the air as reality fractured around them. The driveway, the house, and even the rain disintegrated into a kaleidoscope of shifting images. Mark found himself in the lab again, the Chronos gate humming ominously. "No," he muttered, slamming his fist against the console. "I was so close." He recalibrated the machine and tried again. This time, he arrived moments before the crash. He sprinted toward the bridge, hoping to wave Emily down. But as her car approached, the road dissolved beneath his feet, and he was pulled back to the lab. Each attempt brought new horrors. In one loop, he arrived at the moment of the crash, only to see himself standing on the bridge, screaming in despair. In another, he saved Emily, but the timeline twisted, and she vanished entirely. Mark lost track of how many loops he'd endured. The lab began to change. The walls warped, the equipment grew unfamiliar, and his reflection in the mirror became a stranger. His hair was graying, his skin pale and stretched tight over his bones. One day, Mark saw a new figure in the lab. It was Emily, or some version of her, but her eyes were empty, her movements robotic. "You can't fix it," she said in a voice that echoed unnaturally. "Time doesn't forgive." Realizing the Chronos Gate was the true villain, Mark prepared to destroy it. As he dismantled the machine, he felt the threads of time tightening around him. Visions of every loop he'd ever lived flashed before his eyes, merging into a single, suffocating moment. With a final wrench of the gears, the machine collapsed into itself, and Mark was consumed by darkness. Mark woke in a park, Emily's hand in his. The sun shone, birds chirped, and everything felt perfect. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw the faint reflection of the Chronos Gate, its hum faint but ever present. He knew the truth. He was still trapped, forever paying the price for tampering with time. Mark couldn't shake the unease. Days turned to weeks in the idyllic park, but small inconsistencies gnawed at him. The birds sang the same melody each morning, and the clouds in the sky formed identical patterns. Conversations with Emily were warm but oddly cyclical, as if replaying a script he couldn't quite remember writing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mark noticed a faint glow in the distance. He followed it through the park's winding paths until he stumbled upon a clearing. At its center stood a smaller version of the Chronos Gate, pulsating with a sinister light. "Why are you here?" Mark whispered, his voice trembling. As if in response, the gate emitted a low hum and shadows spilled from its frame. They coalesced into figures, distorted versions of Mark, each wearing the haunted expressions of someone who'd seen too much. One stepped forward, its hollow eyes locking onto him. "You built this prison," it said. "Now you must dismantle it, piece by piece." Determined to escape, Mark resolved to destroy the new gate. He returned to the clearing each night, dismantling the machine, one component at a time. But as he worked, he noticed the shadows growing darker, the air heavier. The other versions of himself began whispering, their voices a cacophony of regret and accusation. One night, Emily appeared in the clearing, her eyes glistening with tears. "Stop," she pleaded. "You're breaking everything." Mark hesitated. Could he trust her? Was this Emily or another fragment of the gate's manipulation? The hesitation cost him. The gate roared to life, pulling him and Emily into its swirling void. Mark awoke in a barren landscape, a place outside of time. The sky was an endless expanse of swirling stars, and the ground beneath him felt cold and insubstantial. In the distance, he saw a massive loom, its threads glimmering with fragments of every life he'd ever lived. Standing beside it was a figure, neither human nor machine, but something beyond comprehension. It regarded Mark with an inscrutable expression. "You have meddled with the threads," it said, its voice resonating through the void. "Now you must decide which to sever." The figure gestured to the loom, where 3 threads glowed brightly. One showed Emily alive, their life together unmarred by tragedy. Another depicted the Mark who had let go of the past, living a solitary but peaceful life. The final thread revealed the Mark who had become the eternal observer, forever bound to the loops. Mark's hands trembled as he reached for the threads. The weight of every choice, every consequence, bore down on him. He took a deep breath and made his decision.